Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today it's going to largely be a basic math review of fractions, decimals, and percents. We're going to work between converting them. And this is going to be more or less a review that we kind of zip through. If you're really unsure how to do it and would like to see it in more depth, please go to my Basic Math 2 playlist. I cover it in greater detail in that. It'll really break it down more and explain it. But today we're just reviewing. So let's start off here. We have 42%, right? 42%. Well, percent means out of 100. So that means you have 42 out of 100. Right? Well, the 42 out of 100 we can clearly reduce to a simpler fraction, because what we're trying to do is convert these percents into a fraction in its simplest form. 42 out of 100 is definitely not simplest form. There's clearly a factor of 2 that'll factor between the 42 and 100. If you divide 42 by 2, you get 21. If you divide 100 by 2, you get 50. And between 21 and 50, we have no common factors that'll factor out. So your answer for a fraction in simplest form for 42% is 21/50ths. Alright, let's try 88%. We have 88%. So again, percent means per 100. That's out of 100, so you have 88 out of 100. We want to convert this to a fraction in simplest form. Well, between 88 and 100, it's pretty clear we have a common factor of 4 between both of them. If you divide 88 by 4, you get 22. If you divide 100 by 4, you get 25. So 88% is going to be 22 out of 25 as a fraction. Okay, now what if we had something like this? We have 87.5%. So we have 87.5%. Suddenly we don't have a whole percent anymore. We have a half a percent. Well, what you're going to do still, this is 87.5 out of 100. This will be 87.5 out of 100. Okay. What we got, whoops, I wrote 1,000. I'm sorry. I did not mean to do that. I'm jumping ahead of myself. It's 87.5 out of 100. Whenever you have a decimal point, do yourself a favor. Try to get rid of that decimal point if at all possible. How we do that is we have one decimal place here. We can multiply the numerator by 10 and get rid of that decimal point. So 87.5 times 10 is 875. But what you do to the numerator, you got to do to the denominator. That would be 875 divided by 1,000, or over 1,000. Now we can clearly factor the 875 and 1,000 from each other. They have a common factor of 125 between them. So 875 divided by 125 is 7. 1,000 divided by 125 is 8. And well, 7 and 8 factor no further, so the fraction you would get is 7/8. So what I did, yes, I took my percent, wrote it at over 100 to 87.5. I multiplied by 10 to get rid of the decimal in the numerator, but I also had to do it to the denominator, so I ended up with 875 over 1,000. Then I divided both numerator and denominator by a common factor of 125, giving me the fraction 7/8. Alright. Now, what if I have something like this? I have 150%. So I got 150%. Well, 150% means 150 out of 100. Well, right away we could tell the 100, we want to get this to a fraction in simplest form, and actually to a mixed number. That's really our goal. So 150 over 100, they both have a common factor of 10 to start with. Actually, we can go for the chase. 150 over 100 both have a common factor of 50. If we divide 150 by 50, we get 3. If we divide 100 by 100 by 50, excuse me, you get 2. You have 3 halves. So that would be an improper fraction. However, our goal is to get this as a mixed number. So we want to figure out how many times does 2 go into 3. It goes in 1 time. Then you'll have 1 left over. So the answer to this is going to be 1.5. You would get 1.5 as the mixed number for it. Alright, I'll do it again, this time with 350%. So we got 350%. Well, percent, that means that's over 100. That's 350 out of 100. Well, 350 and 100 both have a common factor of 50. So if we divide 350 divided by 50, you get 7. If you divide 100 by 50, you get 2. So you have the improper fraction of 7 halves, but we want to convert this to a mixed number. So how many times does 2 go into 7? Well, it goes in 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6, so 7 is 1 left over. The answer is going to be 3.5. You would get the mixed number of 3.5. That would be 350%. All right. Now, what about this? Let's say we have 0.8%. 0.8%. Well, what that means, of course, is that's going to be 0.8 out of 100. That's what percent means. Now, like we did before, what your goal is to get this as a fraction is to get rid of the decimal. We get rid of the decimal in the numerator by multiplying by 10. If you multiply the numerator by 10, 0.8 times 10, well, that's 8. But what you do to the numerator, you got to do to the denominator. 100 times 10, well, that's 1,000. Well, we have 8 and 1,000. Both of them, 8 is a factor of 1,000. So between 8 and 1,000, you have a common 8. You divide 8 by 8, you get 1. Divide 1,000 by 8, you get 125. So your fractional answer is going to be 1 out of 125, or 1 over 125. That's exactly what you would get. Here's a good one. So we have 0.53%. 0.53%, which that would have to mean that's 0.53 out of 100, if that's 0.53%. Well, of course, like you would from before, you want to get rid of the decimal. In this case, we have 2 decimal places in the numerator, which means you need to multiply by 100. So 0.53 times 100, well, that's going to be 53. But, of course, what you do to the numerator, you must do to the denominator. So 100 times 100, that's going to be 10,000. you would get 10,000 for your denominator. Well, 53 and 10,000 have no common factors that would factor any further, so the fractional answer you would get in this case is going to be 53 out of 10,000, or 53 10,000ths. Alright, so I think we've converted enough decimals, the percents into decimals. Now we're going to kind of work in reverse. We're going to convert fractions and decimals to percents. So we have a fraction here. Let's say we have 7/25. Well, we want to convert this fraction to a percent. Well, a percent means the denominator is 100. It's out of 100. Well, we can multiply 25 by 4 to get a denominator of 100. So if you multiply 25 by 4, you get 100. But what you do to the denominator, you got to do to the numerator. So 7 times 4, that's 28. You get 28 out of 100, which 28 out of 100 is 28%. That's exactly what you would get, is 28%. Because 28 out of 100 is percent. So, easy enough, right? Okay, we have 9/40. Well, this is where we're going to have to bust out the calculator, because there's no real good way. There is no real good way to convert 40 to 100. So we want to convert 9/40 into a decimal first. 9/40 as a decimal is equal to 0.225. So we got a decimal. Well, that's great, we got a decimal, but we want to convert that decimal to a percent. If we recall, to convert a decimal to a percent, you move it to the right 2 decimal places. So 1, 2 would put that at 22.5%. So the answer for 9/40 is going to be 22.5%. So if you can, always convert the denominator to 100. But if you can't, then get the decimal, move the decimal 2 decimal places to the right, you'll get your percent. Now, how about 10/3? We have 10/3 here. Well, I could tell you right now, we cannot convert that 3 into 100. It just isn't going to work. So, do 10 divided by 3. I'm going to save us all some time because I know what it is. It's going to be 3.3 repeating, which equals 3.3333 ... It keeps going. Well, like you would to convert a decimal to a percent, you move it 2 places to the right. So if we move the decimal 2 places to the right, 1, 2, you would have 333.3333 ... which simply is equal to 333.3 repeating percent. So you get 333.3 repeating percent. In basic math, we covered methods basically without using a calculator. Pre-algebra, we're going to take the shortcut and use the calculator. So I'm kind of zipping through this here. Alright, how about something like 14/8? Well, 14/8. At first, it looks like we're going to have to do the god-awful decimal again, but we really don't, because 14 and 8 both have a common factor of 2. If you divide 14 by 2, you get 7. You divide 8 by 2, you get 4. Okay? We've reduced this now to a fraction simplest form that has a denominator of 4. We know if we multiply 4 by 25, we can get a denominator of 100. So 4 times 25, well, that's 100, which means we're going to have to multiply that 7 by 25. That's going to give us 175. Well, all of a sudden we got a percent now because we have 175 out of 100. If it's out of 100, that means it's a percent. So the numerator is your percent. You would have 175%. So look for ways to try to convert the denominator into 100 again. That's always your best bet. Sometimes it's easier in dealing with the decimal form of it. Alright, we have 15 over 2,500. I can very clearly tell you this is not going to be able to convert into a nice denominator of 100. So we're going to need to get a decimal. We're going to have to take the decimal form of it. So let's put in the calculator 15 divided by 2,500. You would get 0.006. So it's 0.006 as a decimal. Now, as a decimal, to convert that to a percent, again, move your decimal place 2 to the right. So 1, 2, that would put you at 0.6%. So your answer as a percentage would be 0.6%. Alright, now we have 20 out of 1,200. So we can do 20 out of 1,200. Well, also very clear it's not going to work out to a nice denominator of 100, so we got to take the decimal. So we have 20 divided by 1,200. That gives us 0.016 repeating. 0.01 with the 6 repeating. Well, in order to convert this decimal into a percent, again, move it 2 places to the right, the decimal, you go 1, 2, you would get 1.6 repeating percent. So yes, you get 1.6 repeating percent. That would be your answer. Alright, easy one here. We have 0.51 as a decimal. Well, we want to convert this to a percent. All you got to do, move the decimal place 2 to the right. So 1, 2, that equals 51%. You get an answer of 51%. That wasn't so bad. Alright, how about this one? 0.09. Well, again, a decimal, we want to move it 2 places to the right to get our percent. So 1, 2, that would just give you 9%. So the answer in percent form is it's 9%. Alright, those were easy. Now we do a little bit different here. We have the decimal 3.21. We want to convert 3.21 to a percent. Still, move your decimal place 2 to the right, 3.21, so you go 1, 2. That would give you 321%. So 3.21, that is 321%. I got 3 more, and then we're done for the day. Now this one here is interesting. We have 2.7. Well, in order to make this into a percent, we need to move 2 decimal places to the right. So let's start. We move 1 decimal place to the right. We have 27. Well, we need to move 2 decimal places, so we need to tack on a 0 at the end of that. If you don't have enough digits to move your decimals, just tack on zeros at the end. So 2.7, see, that goes to 27 for 1 decimal place. A second decimal place, that would put you at 270%. So yes, this is worth 270%. 2 more. Alright, how many zeros was that? 1, 2, okay. 1, 2 zeros. So we have 0.0042. Well, we want to write that decimal as a percent. Move the decimal place 2 to the right, so you'll go 1, 2. That would put you at 0.42%. So your answer as a percent is 0.42% when you move 2 to the right. 1 more, then we're done. We have 0.006 actually. So we have 0.0006. Well, again, to get a decimal as a percent, you move the decimal place 2 to the right, so you go 1, 2. You would get 0.06%. A very small percentage there, 0.06%. So, always start out with, when you're converting percentages into fractions, remember that's the fraction out of 100. That percent is your numerator, and the denominator is always 100. When you're going the other way, let's say you want to convert a fraction into a percent, the simplest method is look to see if you can convert the denominator into 100. If you can, then your numerator is your percent. If it's not that simple, if you can't readily convert the denominator into 100, then you got to take the decimal and you got to move the decimal place 2 places to the right, you'll get your percent. Or if you're given a decimal, move it 2 decimal places to the right, you got your percent. So that's a basic review of decimals, fractions, and percents. The very next lesson, we are going to do the percent proportion, which is something, it's a brand new topic that was never taught in the basic math courses. We're going to do the percent proportion. So, hope everyone has a good day. Take care.